Hey guys, if you don't know me, my name is Red, and I just made it to Hollywood Week and American Idol. I'm so excited. So, I thought I would get on here and talk to you all about my audition process since it didn't make it to ABC and it didn't air on TV. First off, I'm a high school English teacher in Knoxville, Tennessee, and I also work at least 2 part-time jobs year-round. I coach cross country and track, though I turned my notice in to focus more on music this year, and I'm also a musician. So, how American Idol happened for me, I think, is a little strange. Not only because, it was in the midst of the pandemic when it was probably at its worst, but also because my students pushed me. This wasn't a decision that I made alone or on my own, and it's not something that I ever thought that I would ever do in my life. It was not a goal. It has become a goal since then, but I just didn't think that I had a voice for American Idol. I didn't think that I had a presence that would be worthy of American Idol. And also on the flip side of that coin, I didn't really take it seriously. I thought that, the people that went up on the show were, basically classically trained people and or, kind of just your run-of-the-mill Disney princess voices. And so I am really thankful to Lionel, Katy, and Luke for opening up American Idol to a much broader genre of musicians and artists. Because when I was there and I was auditioning, there were jazz musicians, blues musicians, all kinds of people, R&B artists, folk, soul singers. I was overwhelmed with how much talent that was surrounding me. I felt totally out of place. When I started my audition process, it was at the very, very beginning of the school year. We didn't have any subs because of the pandemic. So I had to audition for the producers through Zoom in my classroom. My assistant principal, Melissa Walsh, was kind enough to say, "Girl, I got your class, go do your thing." So I tried to go to the library, but there were some of my students that were also in there, and so they were like vibing in the background. I was like, oh my gosh, this is the most embarrassing thing ever. When I went through with the producers, I played I Can't Help Falling in Love with You by Elvis Presley, and I also played an original Middle Class Villain. It's one of my favorite songs ever. And I got through all of the rounds with the producers, and then they told me that they were going to fly me out to San Diego and I could audition in front of the judges. And it was a wild ride after that point. Good morning. It is rainy in Knoxville, Tennessee. My mama drove me to the airport this morning, and she's helping me carry all of my luggage. And I'm super excited. I can't believe I'm getting on a plane to go to San Diego, California. This is amazing. I'm honestly more nervous about trying to find the gates for my flights than I am about meeting the judges. I actually might pee myself when I meet Katy Perry, but it's okay. It's totally fine. So say hi, Mama.
Hi.
So before I got on the plane, one of my students, Whit, made me this little token, I guess. He carved it himself, wood burned it himself, and this basically was just to remind me where I came from and to make sure that I could stay humble. I got on the plane, they flew me down to San Diego. I had never been to California before, and San Diego's just beautiful, so if you've not been there, definitely go check it out. And when we got there, we, of course, had to do another round of COVID tests, and then we had to quarantine for a little bit. And I will tell you this, I felt incredibly safe on American Idol because of how seriously they took the CDC recommendations. So, we were all always 6 feet apart from each other. They were just very conscientious of everything, and it was one of the safer experiences that I've had during the pandemic, even including teaching. I got there, I relaxed for a day or two to kind of get in my zone and my headspace, and I definitely over-practiced the songs that I was prepared to sing. Once the day had happened, once we got over with quarantining ourselves after our COVID tests and everything came back negative, we put our little outfits on, and I wore tights. And, for my audition. And as soon as I pulled them up, they ripped. So I literally had ripped tights throughout the whole day, basically 24 hours of me waiting around and practicing and freaking out and meeting a bunch of cool people to my audition, and then to after when they ran me through, a bunch of interviews and things like that. So after the ripped tights incident, the 2 songs that I sang in my audition were Joy, which is an original, and I started out with that song, and then I played for my second song Stand By Me by Benny King, and I've linked them both up to this video if you want to hear what I sound like when I sing them. And so they took me down to the room, and I was not nervous before I went in, and then as soon as I walked in, I just started shaking. I was so nervous. It was like a little microcosm. There were cameras everywhere. They're all beautiful. Katy Perry is beautiful. And so I was shaking like a leaf. So Lionel Richie had me shake my arms and my hands, and he was like, just calm down. So I played my first song, which was my original, Joy. And it was really inspiring because I made Luke Bryan tear up. And I think it was powerful for me because I connected at least with him on an emotional level, and he's been through similar. So it was just the validation that I needed for one of my original songs that I got through to somebody. And I got through to somebody that writes killer songs and produces and does all of the amazing things that he does. Once I finished Joy, Lionel had great things to say. And then it got to Katy, and Katy was like, okay, yeah, but play something that showcases your voice and your range. And so I was like, oh my God. So I played Stand By Me by Benny King for my second song. And that's when I recognized that I definitely over-practiced, because I know my voice is a little scratchy and everything, but I couldn't hit some of the higher notes that I wanted to hit. And that's just kind of what happens when you're nervous, I guess, as a musician. And so when I got done playing that song, probably one of the biggest compliments that I've ever gotten was when Lionel Richie, the man himself, told me that I sounded like Janis Joplin. I had Janis Joplin vibes and a growl like she did, and I could have died a happy person right then and there. And then, it got back to Katy, and she basically was like, you do not have a Disney princess voice, but you have something and you need to own it. And she said that for me, song selection was going to be really important. So I walked out of the room. I got 3 yeses. I grabbed my little ticket off the board. And then I just cried. I don't know why I cried, but I cried. I was, I think, overwhelmed, and I was also overwhelmed because I made it, and my students pushed me, and I wouldn't have been able to do that without them. And I'm getting teary-eyed now, but it was just wildly validating. Even though my little Knoxville community is there, it's full of the most supportive people I've ever met in my life. I just think going through all of that process and feeling overwhelmed and tired and exhausted because, the Idol people are working so hard to make sure you need to be where you need to be, and they want to make sure everybody's safe. I just would never take that experience back for anything. I think it was equally exhausting because I happened to be the last person to go that night. And so I, along with the judges and everybody else, had just had a really long day. And so it was amazing. So my overall takeaway from American Idol, at least in the audition process, was fantastic. And they are the most supportive group of people that I've ever been around, including the judges. They're humble and they just want the best for you. And so if you're considering doing American Idol, I highly suggest you do it, because even if you get turned away, they'll give you some constructive criticism to walk away with. Thank you guys for listening and tuning in, and I'm super excited and happy that I made it. So I'll see you guys later. Bye.